Hello everyone, this is Chromý and together we will continue the course Interdisciplinary Approaches to Language and its Use. In this and the next presentation we will focus on the acquisition of grammar. There are several broad questions one might ask when doing research on the acquisition of grammar. We may start with asking how children learn the grammar of a language. A follow-up question may be what factors actually influence the process. And from another point of view, we may ask whether there are any general developmental tendencies in the acquisition of grammar. This is a very general sketch of the development of grammatical knowledge. We already know that around first birthday, infants start to produce their first words. Importantly, infants produce isolated words at first. They do not combine them anyhow. This is the reason why most of the second year of life is sometimes called holophrestic period. Not long before the second birthday, children start to combine words together, which is related to their growing grammatical knowledge. However, the combinations tend to be quite simple and children often omit various function words such as auxiliary verbs, prepositions, and so on. During the third year of life, children's sentence complexity grows and they start to produce various grammatical functions. In the fourth year of life, children typically more or less achieve the full-fledged knowledge of the grammatical system of their native language. In other words, the core of the process of the acquisition of grammar actually happens between the second and the third birthday. Again, you can see that the process is very fast, and in 1 year or so, children shift from the stage without using any grammar to a stage with a full-fledged grammar of a given language. Here, we return to the study by Larry Fenson and his colleagues who studied the variability in early communicative development. Remember that this study is based on parental reports. This is a table which reports the percentage of children who combine words. The first column represents age in months, and then there are 3 columns for girls, 3 for boys, and 3 for both sexes combined. Let's focus on the last 3 columns. We can see that at the age of 16 months, 73% of English children do not combine words yet, according to the parental reports. But you can also see that at the age of 2 years or 24 months, most of the children already do so. At the age of 30 months, almost all of the children do combine words, often, according to parental questionnaires. However, this table reports only the very use of word combinations. It is clear that we can combine words in many ways, and these combinations may be very short, but also quite long and complex. Therefore, one might ask, how should we measure the grammatical complexity of children's language production? A very useful measure is the so-called mean length of the utterance, which is often called by its acronym MLU. An utterance is a semantically and intonationally coherent structure the child produces. MLU represents either the mean number of morphemes in child's utterances or the mean number of words. It is based on spontaneous speech, and typically it is calculated based on corpus data. MLU gives us a useful tool how to model the development of grammatical complexity in children. These 2 plots represent the mean length of the utterance for children from 2.5 to 9 years of age. On the left side, the MLU is calculated for words. On the right side, MLU is calculated for morphemes. In both plots, the white bars stand for children without language impairments, and the hatched bars stand for children with the so-called specific language impairment. You can see that the children with specific language impairment have a tendency to create considerably shorter utterances than their peers. Let's return to the study by Larry Fenson and his colleagues. Another thing we may look into is the growth of the observed sentence complexity. Remember that these data are based on parental reports. Altogether, the parents were shown 37 types of grammatical structures, and they had to say whether their child does produce these structures or not. On the y-axis, we have the number of observed grammatical structures by the parents, and on the x-axis, age in months is plotted. We can see that the median score in 20 months is still 0, but then it grows quite rapidly until 30 months, which is the highest age analyzed in the study. This again demonstrates the rapid growth of grammatical knowledge during the 3rd year of life. The last plot we will show here is again from the study by Fenson and his colleagues. This time it is the mean number of grammatical suffixes used by the child based on the parental reports. Again, we can see that the number of suffixes the child uses grows steadily during the analyzed period. There are only 4 suffixes studied here: plural s, possessive s, progressive ing, and the past tense ed, so the highest possible score is 4. You can see that the mean in 30 months is around 3.5, which means that the most children do produce these 4 suffixes at this age. Before we will conclude this presentation, I have 2 reading tips for you. If you would be interested in the acquisition of grammar, you may choose one of the 2 books cited on this slide, which differ widely in their theoretical approach to grammar. The book by Ben Ambridge and Elena Leven contrasts various approaches but clearly prefers the usage-based approach to language acquisition. The theory underlying the book by Maria Guasti is generative and formal grammar. I would personally prefer the first book, but it gives a sense to read both of them to get a clearer picture on various approaches to language acquisition. This is all from me now. See you next time.